Notifications everywhere.
Everywhere. There we go. I need to
But once.
share. Nope. Share now.
All right. We'll be right with you guys. We're just sharing our posts.
This is the fun bit.
Yeah. You know what? Our viewers could also share our posts.
Hey, yeah, you guys share. Share.
This one would probably be a really awesome one to share, everybody.
Forget
Only
the other 41. Forget the other 41 episodes. Just share this one.
Hey, as the admin professionals that we always are, who's doing introductions today?
Not
I
it.
did it last week, so.
Wow.
Jartan, I think you should.
Tartan sounds like he's ready.
Yeah, I touched my nose and nose goes. So
Oh, okay.
here we go. Sweet swat swoom.
All right, welcome everybody to the Bin Podcast. My name is Shartan, and we're back on episode. Which number is it again?
42.
42 already. Seems like it's been 5 years. I hate you guys.
That's the answer. I mean, this is the episode of the answer.
The answer.
Figure it out now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as always, I'm joined by Wade, Mikey, and Brenna. Say hello, everybody.
Hello,
And-
everybody.
Hello, everybody.
How are we doing today?
Another day in paradise.
Is it really? Well, it's paradise now that you don't have the Orange Führer as your president, right?
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I'm done talking about elections for at least another 2 years.
Yeah, that's good. But since we also have a very special guest, we have Alisa Harbin with us tonight. Welcome, Alisa, to the Ben Podcast. So glad to have you.
Welcome. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
And thank you for joining us.
So let's just jump in as soon as we can. And
Oh, what am I
Alisa-
drinking? Let me tell you. I'm
Yes.
having energy drink and rum, as I typically do, for these calm midday meetings with friends from afar.
Brenna, cup of tea?
I am drinking some with vanilla peach. It's loose pink tea, by the way. Yeah.
Death Star tea.
Oh, is that
Look,
one?
you guys are obviously not as cool as I am. I have my little TIE fighter.
Yeah, I got one of those for Christmas. I did not think it had anything to do with tea, so it's been staying in my bedroom for all this time. But maybe I should move it into the kitchen.
It's
Tartan
Wow.
drinking.
I'm on the Yellowtail Malbec tonight.
ooh.
I like Malbec. It's nice because it's a little bitey.
Mixing it up.
Gets you in there.
Little snap.
Alisa, what you having in your glass?
Mine's pretty boring. It's just sparkling water.
Whoa.
For editorial purposes, we'll say neat vodka.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
In
and
in
over
shot
here-
glass.
And over here we are having a glass of Italian Amarone.
Wow.
Oh, very nice.
You can't just make up words.
We're a classy bunch.
Yes, we are Europeans, so we can make up. We make up countries whenever we feel like it.
Just get a ruler out. Just
lines around.
this is Iraq now. Have that.
Can first one in the chat? Can we get to Alisa by now? All right, Alisa, can you please? Well, let's start with you, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. Well, I used to be. I'm retired now. Yay. But before that, I was a patent attorney, and I worked in as almost 30 years. And I worked in the biopharmaceutical space, and I worked for a couple of companies, one of which was Chiron, which where I started working on vaccines patents. So I worked with vaccine developers, and I worked with the one of the Nobel Prize winners of this year. So Michael Houghton, they gave the Nobel Prize for medicine went to three gentlemen, Charlie Rice, Harvey Alter, and Michael Houghton for their work on Hep C, hepatitis C. And it was pretty cool because I actually worked on a lot of the patents for hepatitis C. So it was a really nice time to relive all the work that I had done with them and to see such a great invention, so to speak, and that the invention was finding the virus, characterizing the virus, and allowing for the eventual drug development, which is a cure, to happen. And but to see that recognized was really, really, it was very gratifying, and it's good for the world.
Yeah, and the story about hepatitis C is quite a long one because we've known about A and B for quite some time. C has been disputed for quite some time, hasn't it?
Yep.
So, well, congratulations on that. That is amazing.
Yeah, it was. Again, it was congratulations to them. It was under my science, but it was really, really fun to work on. And I did that very early on in my career, and it was just an exciting time. And because of shortly because when they finally found the virus and characterized it in 1990, right after that, between Abbott and Ortho Clinical, they started screening blood, and so people no longer got hepatitis C from blood transfusions. I mean that finding of that virus allowed for the blood supply to be made safe really quickly, and that's an amazing thing to happen and to work on and be a part of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's something I would never even think of, like that there was a virus in the blood that people were donating that they didn't even know was there. And then we're just like, you go to, what I'm saying? People get hurt and they need blood at the hospital. No one ever thinks I got sick from the blood they gave me. So that's amazing that happened.
But isn't that what happened with HIV back in the day as well? Like how they discovered the HIV virus through people.
Yep. Same thing. Yeah. It was just a little faster actually with HIV than with HCV because the virus that causes HCV was harder to find. And so it was longer. Like you guys are all so young, but I don't know if you heard of the show Dallas. The guy who played Jennifer Ewing, Larry Hagman. He had and eventually died from complications due to Hep C, which he got from a blood transfusion.
It's funny you mentioned Dallas because today I was talking to a customer. We were talking about 2020, and I did pull the. I really wish we could do a Bobby Ewing with 2020. I'm going to wake up tomorrow in the shower and everything's just reset.
Exactly.
It didn't happen. It was just a dream.
No, that was a pretty bad storyline, though. Anyway.
Who knew we'd be referencing Dallas on the show tonight?
I didn't know I was going to do that either. It's
part of your bingo card. Come on.
Oh, yeah, cool. So every week.
All right, so let's get into the more urgent matters. Well, not urgent, but we got COVID-19 going on. We got pandemic all the way around the world. And you've been working, 25 years in vaccine development?
Yeah, something like that with vaccine developers. I am not a vaccine. Like I said, I was a patent lawyer, so I'm not a vaccine developer. I feel like, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. I'm not a vaccine developer, but I work with them.
Yeah, you know more about it than us.
Yeah. But what would you like to know? What can I tell you?
So let's start with the obvious question. What are the difficulties with developing a vaccine for such a virus as COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, well, the difficulty, and some of them are standard difficulties for any vaccine, whether it's a vaccine against a virus or a vaccine against a bacteria. Viruses are actually simpler in chemical structure than bacteria, except viruses mutate an awful lot, or certain viruses mutate a lot. So that, of course, and that was what's been so difficult with developing a vaccine to HIV. It keeps changing. The virus even changes in one person, and so it can be monitored so that you can see that when a person is initially infected with a virus, it has one specific sequence, and then months later it's the same person's, but the virus has changed. So mutation can cause a difficulty, because in order for a vaccine to be effective, it has to be able to raise an immune response so that when the host or the human sees the virus again, the immune response is mounted, and therefore the antibodies that are raised go and kill the newly seen virus. If the virus has changed, then it's not the same, and so the immune response won't work.
So is that saying that the mutation is a form of self-preservation for the virus?
Absolutely. Yeah, viruses, I mean, they're sort of, if you kind of intellectually, they're kind of cool things. They're very, very simple. They don't have much, and they can't replicate outside of a host. So they have to find their host, and the host is very specific. In some cases it's a human, in other cases it's a bird, in other cases it's, pigs. And then it's very specific cells that when the virus hits and finds those cells, then the virus is able to get into the cell, and then it takes over the cell's sort of manufacturing capability, and it starts to replicate itself. And that's how it works.
Let's do some questions, because we have Katharina who asks, are COVID-19 vaccines less tested because the process time to approval is compromised?
Yeah. So, I mean, it is interesting. Normally, it takes about 10 to 12 years to get a vaccine licensed. That's the normal time frame.
Holy crap.
It's it's long, and it's hard, and it's expensive. And in this case, it's probably going to happen in 1 to 2. And so we can all sit around and go, how is that, how is that happening? It's happening for 2 different, or maybe for multiple reasons. One, because COVID-19 is actually it's a SARS virus. COVID-19 is the disease. The virus is called SARS-CoV-2. And so it's highly related to the SARS virus that was circulating in 2002. The scientists were able to use some of the work that was done then, and that jump started their development. It's not as if they had never seen anything similar to the COVID-19 virus before. So we were, in a way, really lucky. The other thing is the EMA and the FDA and the major regulatory agencies are shortening their timelines. What happens when you're trying to get regulatory approval? You give your information over to the health agencies, and they have, say, 6 months to review it. Well, the agencies have all committed that instead of the 6-month timeline, they're reviewing everything expedited. So they're not shortening the data that's required. What they are shortening is the amount of time that they're going to take to look at it. It doesn't take them 6 months normally. It's just they have 6 months to do something. So they're prioritizing their review.
But what are the problems in developing a vaccine for this specific virus compared to other viruses that we have vaccines for, let's say polio, measles,
right,
so on?
Yeah, so a couple of, I mean, we just don't know that much about this. Well, we know a little bit about it from the SARS. We know this virus has only been around, that we know of 10 months, 11 months. And so there's just not that much scientific evidence. We don't know how much it is mutating because, again, we just haven't had the time for the scientists to analyze how much it's mutating. Most of the vaccine candidates are all going after the spike protein, which is the protein that is produced and then binds to the epithelial cells in the airways, and that's how it gets into the human. And so the vaccine candidates are trying to block that interaction, and it should work. But again, this is unprecedented in the amount of energy and effort that's gone into a single vaccine, all in a very compressed timeline. So.
Okay. And Tara asks, how many iterations of the COVID vaccine until it's at 70 to 80% effect rate?
Right. Well, we don't know. I mean, if you look at the Pfizer results right now, it says it's 90% effective. That's really good. I mean, that's really, really high. Everyone, the agencies have said that they will approve anything over 50%. And the annual flu vaccine that many people get sort of sits around an efficacy of about 50%. Sometimes it's a little higher, sometimes it's a little lower. So it's hard to say how many, it may be that the first ones that come out are 70%. They'll be over 50, but we don't know, until we start to see more data, we don't know what the efficacy rate really is.
And that kind of goes into the next point that we had, what we were going to talk about. So let's just jump into that. So the promise of herd immunity without a vaccine, how likely is it for us to have a herd immunity in the world without a vaccine?
Yeah, so, I mean, well, the answer is not likely, or not likely in any short period of time. I mean, herd immunity is sort of the concept that you get immunity, and if you get enough people or hosts that are immune, the virus will stop spreading because it won't be able to find new hosts to infect and then replicate. So that's kind of the idea behind it. You don't have to immunize or make sure everyone has immunity. You just have to get enough that it sort of thwarts the virus replication.
Because it gives it less contact points, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it's viruses are living things, and they want to, like all living things, they all want to replicate. That's what that's what we're all designed to do.
We talk about that. We talk about that a lot on the show.
Sort of a different perspective, but yes.
So actually from Twitch, Big Curbster, what up, boy? Says it's strange how they need a host to live, but they ultimately end up killing the host. And then I put in, that's why they need to spread, because eventually they're going to die in that one host, and will have eventually taken over all of the cells. So that's why they need to have some sort of mechanism to get out of the host before the host dies. That's why like Ebola is a lot more deadly than COVID, but COVID is it's much more easy to spread it because the host isn't bedridden with blood pouring out of every orifice.
Correct. And that sort of goes to what percentage of the population do you need in order to get, to reach herd immunity. And so there's something called a row number, and let me just, which is the basic reproduction number. And that number is how many cases come from one infected individual on average.
Yeah, that's that scale where you have like a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 ratio, where influenza is at 1-to-1, right? So every person who gets it on an average infects one.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So then the percentage of your population that you need to be immune is inversely proportional in another formula to that. So if you have measles, say for example, measles is really highly infectious. And typically a person who has measles infects like 12 to 18 other people. So that turns into you need 92 to 94% of your entire population to be immune to measles in order for it to stop circulating. COVID seems to be, because you can control a little bit of the number of people you infect by social distancing, mask wearing, that kind of thing. It seems that you would have to get 70% of the population immune in order to reach herd immunity.
How much?
70.
Wow.
Yep. So, start to do the math on that. If you have a population of, 10 million, you need 7 million infected. If you have a population of 350 million, you need 245 million infected.
You're getting there, America.
Fortunately, not quite that.
Shut up, Wayne.
And if you have a fatality rate of 1% of your infected people at 250 million infections, that's 2.5 million deaths. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, so when you put those numbers, when you really start to think about it, the herd immunity thing, it's, maybe it'll happen in years, but at what cost? I mean, it can't be a public health strategy. It just can't.
Listening, Sweden? Is anybody listening in Sweden right now? Please?
You see, this is the things you're saying. So can you, because I've had a lot of people talk to me about Sweden and how Sweden has behaved. And I've said to them, I speak to a Swedish guy every week, every single week, and it's not as clear cut as you are being told. So could you please speak to the people that hold Sweden up as an example,
right,
as to what is actually going on, really going on?
Yeah, just don't. That's all I can say. Just don't. It's horrible. Like if you look at, because when you compare numbers between countries, you have to remember to take into account social structures, wealth, and all of that. So basically, the only countries who have the same healthcare system, the same social structure as Sweden is Norway, Finland, Denmark, and maybe Iceland. But yeah. But basically, and if you're looking at the death rate in Sweden right now, which has been kind of counting on herd immunity and following an old strategy set by the EU for other viruses, because that's basically what they're doing. They have 30 times as many deaths as Norway. Okay, that Norway has half the population, but we're still talking about 15 times as many people. There are not even 300 people in Norway who died from COVID-19. There are over 6,000 in Sweden. And maybe the people who are supporting this strategy are right in that it will even out over time. But from numbers that we have right now, everything that we see right now, that's the data that we have right now, it doesn't seem to be working very well. So maybe it's time to find a new strategy. Maybe this wasn't the best way to go. And if now that Pfizer vaccine that we touched on a little while ago, let's see that in 6 months or a year that will be there. There is no way that Norway, Finland, and Denmark, which are the comparable countries to Sweden, will reach those 6,000 deaths. And people are still fucking dying over here, by the way.
It's not only that. It's if you look at the population density, how many people live in Sweden?
10 million.
10 million. And how many square miles does Sweden cover?
Yes.
Compared to the UK?
Yes.
And we've got like
you think I've got
64 million.
this number in my head, mate? Am I a geologist all of a sudden?
I'm just,
Are we counting? Are we counting all of their ice? Because I think that's bullshit. They have a lot of ice. We can't
No,
count
that's
that
why
as
they keep the
land.
vaccine at minus 88 degrees in Sweden's ice.
And we also have that great wall, you know, down south. So no, but the point is, like, it's obviously not working. So it's time to end strategies. It's time to go the other way, and this is why I want to get back to the Pfizer thing. And Lisa, how reliable are these numbers that we had from Pfizer, about the 90%? Like, how big is the control group? Big enough? Are the is it called peer review when you do a study and
Peer
you sort
review,
of
Yeah.
you
It
try
will-
to confirm?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, I worked for vaccine developers, and I have faith in the system. So the way that this was an interim study, this is an interim result. So the final results of the phase 3 trial are not yet available.
You
They-
have to pretend like you're talking to 6-year-olds. So what is the interim result?
Okay. It's not a final result. It's one in the middle, right?
Okay.
So, and why? But it's still, the result is still very important, and the reason is this. So, for efficacy, so that the percent, effectiveness, that is not evaluated in a clinical trial for a vaccine until phase 3. So there's phase 1, which is the first one, and that goes in, the vaccine candidate goes into, say, 100 patients. They're looking for safety because it has to be safe. That's the first thing. And then it has to raise an immune response. So it's called immunogenic. Otherwise, you're just injecting something that doesn't do anything, even if it is safe. Then you have phase 2, and that's typically hundreds of patients. And again, they're looking for safety, and they're looking for an immune response. Then they go to phase 3, and that's for vaccine candidates. It's tens of thousands of patients that the vaccine candidate has gone into. And so the Pfizer is in the Pfizer BioNTech is in phase 3 right now. That's where they look at the efficacy. They look at safety, and now they're looking at the percentage efficacy. So it will be determined. The interim results. So this is in the midst of the phase 3 trial. That's why it's an interim result. They waited until they got like 94 confirmed cases. So, and that means, there were 2 injections of the vaccine candidate, and they waited. Then the people who had the candidate were, had to go out and see if they got COVID. After 94 confirmed COVID cases, they then looked to find out how many patients had been given the vaccine. So that's where they've calculated this 90%. So I think the results are the results, and the results, like all clinical trial results, will be publicly available on clinicaltrials.gov and also through the EMA. So you don't have to worry that they're lying. They're not. The clinical protocol is publicly available. One can see the results too. One could do the calculations. It's just we don't yet know what the final results are, because all of they stopped, or they did this interim result when they received when 94 patients had COVID. So we'll have to wait. I think it's only a few more weeks, based on what I've read, until the final phase 3 results will be available. At which point they're going to apply for emergency approval and move from there.
So, and let's say that everything goes as planned with the Pfizer vaccine. What are the timeline? Are we looking at 6 months to a year before we see a rollout of this vaccine, or? Well,
if they can get the emergency approval, I think again, I think I read that Pfizer expects to make like 50 million doses available, even this year, if they can get the approval. They've been manufacturing this vaccine at risk. And that's another thing that is that's another reason for these compressed timelines, because normally vaccine manufacturers would not manufacture the vaccine until it's been approved. But because we're in the midst of a pandemic, all of the vaccine manufacturers that are running these trials are manufacturing and trying to get doses ready so that the minute they can be delivered, they will be delivered. And instead of, okay, now that we have approval, we'll start the manufacturing process.
What a beautiful segue into another question from the chat. Katarina, hello girl, how you doing? How do third world countries get access to a vaccine, e.g., the COVID vaccine? Would they be covered through the World Health Organization?
The answer to Katarina's question is yes, they will be covered. So there are, unlike actually with many drugs or therapeutics, there's already systems that exist for delivery of vaccine to many third world countries. There's the Global Vaccine Initiative, Gavi. There's another global vaccine initiative. And so what's been formed is something called COVAX. And this is to help sort of make sure that, and this is sort of WHO directed and sponsored, and it's designed to be this collaboration between global health organizations, between governments, between the private sectors, and between academics to understand how to deliver this vaccine to where it needs to go. Because, as the Secretary General of the WHO has said, no one is protected until we're all protected. And so we have to ensure that this vaccine gets delivered globally.
Right.
And so I think the first, so there is this COVAX, and it's getting funded. Gates is funded. The EU just gave money to it. The US has given money. So that's how it will work in theory. I mean, in practice, it's going to be really difficult. And the reason is, if you look at the Pfizer vaccine candidate and a number of the others that will follow, they've got to be kept really, really cold, and that's because because of what they are. If it gets warm, and I mean this is like super cold, if it gets warm, it's going to degrade and it's not going to work.
I think it's minus 88 degrees, isn't it?
Yep, that's really cold.
Which logistically proves a problem to a lot of hotter countries. You have to logistically take that vaccine and transport it at that temperature, and logistically that is going to prove problematic to a lot of countries that don't have that infrastructure in place. I mean, I know that we are in the UK creating storage hubs for the vaccine. We haven't got it in place now, and we're the UK. America, I know, is doing the same thing through private enterprises like UPS and who's your other one?
We do it too. We call them tents.
They can just leave it outside. They just leave it on the front porch. As long as the polar bears don't get to it, they don't have a problem.
Just said transport is like the frost giants. They just hold it in there. There you go. Have that.
Yeah. I mean, you think about that. That's and Pfizer's already developing boxes, that the thing can be transported in, but that's and they're already working on this now. Normally, of course, it would wait until they found out if the actual vaccine candidate is going to work or not. But the fact that all this investment in this innovation has already gone on is a testament. And sort of explains a little bit about how the regulatory timelines are getting compressed.
Yeah. So that goes on to a question that I have. So I keep getting emails about volunteer for COVID vaccine testing trials. I have not tested positive for COVID at all. Like, why am I getting emails asking for COVID trials? And what will that mean for the future of rolling out a vaccine?
Well, I don't know why you're getting emails, but maybe somebody's identified you as being a potential candidate for some reason, probably your age, for the trial, because they need patients. So like the Pfizer trial it's 40,000 patients in the U.S. There's somewhere between 11 and 12 candidates in phase 3 already. So start to do the math, and the world needs more patients, or people to volunteer and agree to be tested, for these trials. So the more trials, the more vaccine candidates likely to be positive, the more vaccine we'll have sooner. But it also means that individuals who may have never been interested or contacted to participate in a clinical trial are going to be asked.
All right, I'm going to stop sending you those emails now.
With the trial groups in like a pandemic, do they have like controlled groups, or is it everyone gets the no one gets a placebo, they all get the actual vaccine?
In some cases, there are control groups, yes. So it depends on the trial design, but yeah, there are. And you have to make sure that people understand what behavior is expected and that sort of thing.
Okay, so there's always with the control groups, there's always, even though it's an emergency sort of thing, there's always going to be the placebo given to people to make them think so. Okay, right. Yeah, I just not sure whether being there's a pandemic, it's like, let's not worry about placebos, let's just give it to everyone and see what happens.
But that would skew the results, though.
Oh, sorry.
That would skew the results of the trial, though, wouldn't it? If everybody got it.
Right. That's why you need the control group. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm just clarifying that because I didn't know.
We have some
and that's the beauty of our podcast. We like to put our hands up and say we don't know. Please enlighten us.
Well, there's something else we need to do on this podcast as well.
Put it down.
All right, everybody, you know the drill. You're going to go to patreon.com/thebinpodcast. Could you guys please stop talking while I'm talking? This is my one thing I get to do. Me sitting in the background, the corner, waiting for my mid-roll. All right. So you guys are going to go to patreon.com/thebinpodcast, and you are going to sign up for becoming a patron. So let's go through our patrons. This time I'm going to start from the bottom and go up just to mix things up a bit.
So you started from the bottom, now you're here.
This is why I want you guys to just stop talking while I'm doing this one thing. I get one.
My bad.
Give me back. There we go. It's more important. All right. So we have Richard.
Hey.
We have Kristen. We have Austin.
Austin over there.
We have Stuart.
What?
We have Katarina. We have David.
David.
We have Miss Nana.
Hi, Mom.
We have Ricky.
Pretty Ricky, what they call him.
And we have tons of mice.
Tons of mice slaying in the chat right now.
So we need to add names to this. So sign up. $1 to be not a freeloader. Get up to 5, 10, 20. Please, somebody needs to do the $100 tier. We have to do something with the chicken show, or it's just not the Bin podcast. We can't do it.
I'm asking for it for Christmas.
Just a bunch of you just pool your stuff together, pool your resources, and let's get a chicken show together. Thank you. Patreon.com/Bin podcast. Sign up now.
Oh God. Doody doo. Thanks.
Sweet spot.
Mid-roll done.
Mid-roll done.
Complete.
Yeah. All right. I kind of lost my thread there for a bit. Where were we? We were talking about
Vaccine timelines.
yeah. But yeah. So when you start having worldwide rollout of such a vaccine, how would that even work?
Well, it will work in some level, country by country. It seems clear, at least from the literature, that the first doses will be delivered to healthcare workers. And if you think about it, that makes sense. And so, it's really going to be a major achievement if by the end of the year, healthcare workers are even started to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Again, nothing has ever, no vaccine has ever gone this quickly. So the idea that within 1 year we could be vaccinating our healthcare workers is just astounding. So governments are contracting with vaccine manufacturers. You probably read, some of that, whether it's the EU, the US, the UK, many governments are making deals with vaccine manufacturers for vaccine to be delivered. That is extremely common. That's how vaccines get, or largely how vaccines get delivered. So there's nothing untoward about that. You shouldn't think that feels wrong, because it isn't. The governments are the ones paying, and so it makes sense then that they would be doing these contracts, with the vaccine manufacturers. And of course, the vaccine manufacturers then have to, understand and be tracking how many doses they're committing to deliver to whom by when. And that's really on them. And you can imagine that these companies will have lots of people who are going to really have to get into sort of supply management. And then on the government side, whichever government it is, they're going to then have to decide, okay, I'm getting 50 million doses from company A and 100 million from company B, and understand the timing of that delivery, and then how to distribute them. And again, first they'll start with healthcare workers. If you look at the Pfizer trial, it's only in really healthy adults right now, and that's also common. They will have other trials for the elderly and other trials for young children. You always, again, if you are a vaccine developer, it's common to start with the healthy adults, because they're the ones that have the best immune systems. And so if your vaccine candidate is going to work at all, it's going to work in a healthy adult. And then you look to expand it to those patient groups where they may be immunocompromised.
We also have a very important question. Tons of mice is always fantastic in our comment section. So how long until The Walking Dead arise?
I don't know.
What season are we on?
She didn't say it wasn't going to happen. She just said she doesn't know when it's going to happen. You got to listen to what she says and what she doesn't say.
It's in between the lines there.
So, Alisa, is there any current projects that you're working on right now?
Are there any? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Is there any current projects that you're working on right now?
I do work on it. It's unrelated to vaccines. But this is just a little plug for it. I work with a group called AWEC, which is the African Women's Entrepreneur Cooperative. And so it is an organization in the US, and I'm a mentor. And I get every year I get, first year I got 4, this year it's my second year, I have 5. I work with these 5 African women who are entrepreneurs, and they are trying to start their own companies. And so I get to talk to them about what they're doing, and share with them and listen to them, about the challenges they're facing in their own environments. And in this year, in my case, I have two ladies from Nigeria, two from Ghana, and one from the Sudan. And to talk about how they're trying to form their companies and bring their companies to reality. It's really it's I love it. They're all just these incredibly energetic, um, brilliant, younger to me, women who are really trying to make a difference in the world. And
How did you get involved in that?
I know a woman, Angela, who works at Pfizer, and she is initially from Kenya. She now lives in New York, and
Just like Barack Obama. Okay.
Maggie.
There's a couple of
Take
trolls.
it back.
There's a couple of trolls in the chat. I had to throw them a bone. They're slathering for it, so I had to give them something.
So this is my girl, Alyssa.
Oh, that was actually quite good.
No.
Oh dear, I'm glad I don't see this. And so she recommended me, and that's how I got involved.
So why is it important for women in Africa to have that kind of mentorship when it comes to entrepreneur?
Well, I mean, I think most entrepreneurs would say they have some kind of mentors. It's really hard to do alone. It's, trying to start a company in Africa has even more challenges than, the US or Europe, because they typically don't have venture capital. So really how most of these, companies are started is that it's through savings of the individual, through their families, as opposed to being able to, access the venture capital market. And so they just don't have the same they don't have the same sort of ability to talk to people and learn from others, whether it's mistake. Well, of course, you learn from others' mistakes and you learn from others' experience. So this program tries to put people together and provide, at least to the extent they can. It's not funding, but it is just, the ability to share information. These ladies, they haven't gone to business school. They don't have MBAs. And so it's sort of a way to tap into expertise without going through the same sort of Western traditional process.
Are all the mentors women? So it's kind of a women to women kind of thing, or is it broad?
It's all interested parties are included.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. So
what kind of businesses are they trying to start, or are they working on, or adding on to their
drone pilots?
Yeah. So so this, I have one who is a ophthalmologist, or an optometrist. So she's trying to start her own eye clinic. And it's also important, you have to understand the way insurance works in different parts of the world, because however insurance works in the US, well, it doesn't work anywhere like it does in the US, and that's probably a good thing. But insurance schemes are different. So the Nigerian insurance schemes, there's a private insurance, and there's the big public. So she's an optician. Another one is a physical therapist, and she's trying to get physical therapy. It's not part of the Nigerian sort of insurance promotion or scheme. And so, unlike, in certain European countries, you can't even get a drug before you go to physical therapy. Physical therapy is just part of your health system.
Mm-hmm.
In Nigeria, it is not. It's sort of the opposite. And so only people who could pay sort of privately for physical therapy. And so she's trying to figure out how to make that work. I have another one who has shea butter products. And so she's trying to get shea butter products, sold. Another one is a veterinarian, and she's trying to get sort of devices for helping the farmers predict the ovulation period of their cows.
Oh.
And yeah, see, they're all over the place.
That's a really diverse portfolio.
Very
Right?
interesting. Well, I think we think of like, African women entrepreneurs as like making textiles or dyeing fabrics, but this just seems like it's completely different view of women entrepreneurs in African countries and how they're setting up with their mentors. I think that's really exciting and really interesting. And how do people get more information about like these mentorship programs or who's being mentored?
Yeah, well, AWEC, that's the AWEC. And you can contact Dawn or Karen when you get to the AWEC website. It's a great program. I can't say enough good things about it. So,
well, thank you for your time in doing that, because I think it's really important to just see the world a little bit differently, especially for women. And you're right, like not having access to all the things that usually, like we're kind of spoiled here in the US and around Europe. We're very spoiled about how we get our money and how we start our businesses. But understanding other cultures and how they're doing it is going to make the world a smaller place.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So ladies and gentlemen, we are about to round up. If you have some final questions, post them in the chat. We got about 5 or 6 minutes until we are going to let Lisa go. First of all, I want you to address, Tons of Mice took up a very important question in the chat. And so coronavirus will make you Kenyan. That was sort of what he got from what you said.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Just say no. Just say no.
Right. Tons has given us a great segue. How do we address idiots on the internet?
Oh, very quick. I got you, Wayne. Just like this. All right. And then you just go on with your life. I'm sorry, Wayne. I had to.
Oh, look at Mikey. Got all the power.
I'm sorry. I had to. It was
all
fun.
the power. No, Alisa, obviously with this announcement of the vaccine potentially coming out, we've been told that it's going to be rolled out over here in care homes from December of this year. But there's this massive anti-vaxxer movement online, and they're so skeptical and they're so disruptive of, actual science. How do we combat them? Where should we point people in the direction of factual science that could maybe enlighten them if they're so enlightened to do so? But what do we do?
Yeah.
No pressure.
Right. I wish I had the easy answer for that. I think let's start from sort of try to put ourselves in the position of probably many or some anti-vaxxers are they're trying to protect their children, right? So and this is I'm trying to put a positive light on how to approach this. And there was an article published in the Lancet that purported to give a link between the measles vaccine and autism.
Oh, you talk about the Andrew, right. I forget his last name, the MMR jab, yeah.
Right, and so, but that's where a lot of this stems from. I mean, it stems from a fear that my child will get sick or something bad will happen to my child if I give them a vaccine. So I'm not talking about the anti-vaxxers that are anarchists, because I don't know what to do with that.
No,
But
no one
well,
can.
I can't deal with that. But what I don't think not everyone actually understands what happened with that article. That article the science has been thoroughly debunked.
Andrew Wakefield.
Yeah, it's not right. And there's been publications, but yet it's interesting that a person is willing to believe a publication where it says you can't, that a vaccine is bad, but they're not willing to believe all of the later ones that show that one publication was wrong. I mean, and it must be, some sort of fear-based,
Yeah,
um, sort of reasoning behind it. And
yeah.
and one would think with enough, I mean, maybe with a little more compassion in the explanation, maybe we can get to some alleviating some of the fear. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody wants their child, nobody wants to, their child to get autism because you took them to the pediatrician and they got a shot. I mean, of course not. No one wants that. And so there has to be some forum to really just have a logical discussion, but understand, what's really driving. Again, these are the fears behind the anti-vaxxers who are the parents, that sort of thing. That would be one place I would start. I know other people have different and other approaches, which would be maybe a little.
Do you feel that I don't know whether this is something that you can speak to, but do you feel that it's the responsibility of things like social media to actually put flags on certain things? I mean, I know America's all about the First Amendment and everything like that, but if it's demonstrably untrue, surely that information should be flagged and say you need to question
Right.
this,
Well, yeah,
like they've done with Trump of recent
yeah.
on Twitter.
Right. Certainly if something is talking about, a scientific article, which is then thoroughly debunked, that should come up somewhere on, when the scientific article, this has been repudiated. Somewhere there should be, I would think. Now, whether it's the responsibility of the Lancet, which it probably has, the Lancet probably has withdrawn that. I'm sure they have. But it would be great to get, if while there's so many celebrities that can come out and be anti-vaxxers, it would be great to actually get a few that have had their children vaccinated, which I believe there are, that could actually come out and speak in favor of it.
But does that not sort of pour into the sort of fear-based propaganda? Whereas you get this confirmation bias, you've got a little fear, someone comes out and confirms that fear, and then you could have 100 people just disavowing it, but it doesn't matter because you've already got this confirmation bias, and you'll hold this one person up against 100 people, and it means nothing. It means nothing because you are so emotional about this particular fear, you can't see logic, you can't see reason. So how do we cut through that with logic and reason?
Oh, yeah. Well, it might be interesting. You could get like, someone like a psychiatrist or a specialist in human behavior on your show to ask this question.
Well, we'll try and do that, but until then, we've got you.
I can answer. So what you want to do, Wayne, is you want to lower your center of gravity, right? And then you're going to tackle them about the midsection. And then Brenna's going to come in from the top rope, syringe betwixt her teeth, and give him a good, yeah! Right in the buttocks.
We are going to let Alisa go. If you do have any more questions for Alisa, you are welcome to post them to us and we'll forward them to her, of course, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. The last question I want to ask you before we let you go, Alisa, is does vaccines cause autism?
No.
Okay.
End of.
Thank you.
And
Just no.
No.
And scene.
And see. All right, Alisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alisa.
Thank you
very
You
much.
have been an absolute hero.
Very
Thank
informative.
you so much. And we're going to try to have you back on. Everybody, way back to Alisa. We're going to keep on going for a little while.
All right.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Oh, we can't have this.
Oh, no.
No.
You
God, I nearly
like that.
I nearly sicked up a poo.
Oh boy. Well,
Oh.
let's do this. How about we end this stream, take a quick 10-15 minute recess, and then we'll kick into the after show so that's a nice clean episode and I don't have to cut out all the rest of the nonsense that we're about to say.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think that's a bloody great idea.
All right. We will see you guys in 10-15 minutes. So for Mikey, for Brenna, for Wayne, Cortez, and for Shatan, thanks for joining us. We'll see you later. Bye.
Cheerio. This is where I'm supposed to stay still.